Hey you, it's Ebony with We Are Ideas, and today we are going to talk about the painstaking, sometimes very uncomfortable feeling of cold calling or even reaching out to someone you know to request funding for events or even multi-year programs that you know will make a significant impact in community. You've seen it in real time, and now you need to secure additional donors and funders in order to support staff and to actually make that thing go. I understand firsthand, and I have found over the years that it's not necessary to get rid of those insecurities or vulnerabilities. What it is how do we integrate that into the conversation we have with a potential funder or donor? And today we're also going to talk about the exact letter and deck we use in order to have secured multi-year relationship with municipalities, foundations, as well as corporations like Macy's and Lexus. Okay, stay tuned. Let's bring people together. Okay, so as always, I'm going to set some ground rules. You may have them for me as well, so feel free to put them in the comments. Always open to learning. But for me, I want to just share that commenting below is really important for the work that we do. You can choose not to comment below and actually just message me if you want to. Someone from the team will respond. You can go to weareideas.global and put your thoughts and questions down. But the rule here is that it's important to engage about your event and program so that we can support you. And so the reason that's important is because the work that I teach doesn't work unless you work it. And so really think about how you can engage. Of course, you can comment below or shoot us an email via our website, weareideas.global. Also wanted to let you know that sometimes I'll be looking over here because I have my little notepad and I write stuff down and I want to make sure I don't miss a thing. I'm not trying to have this video be super perfect and super glossy. My anal retentive side would suggest otherwise, but I'm letting it go because I want to make sure that all of the work that I've done in 15 plus years and the research in order to prepare for each video, I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. And lastly, I have my water here because I start to sound like an 80-year-old woman that's been smoking for 30 years if I don't take a sip. Thank you for your grace. Okay. So I want to just start off by saying in the video, video below this video, you will see a link that takes you to weareideas.global where you'll sign up. We're doing that because we love your email address. We won't email you a lot, but we want you to be engaged in the community so we can support the work that you do. That is my life's work, is to move people beyond, not just to their mission, but beyond their mission so that the world can be a better place. And our belief is that nonprofits have been doing that for a very, very long time. And we want to continue to do that while supporting organizations and executive directors and their teams step away from mission creep and get really focused on a big mission. Sometimes can feel uncomfortable when you're walking out into the skinny branches, and we want to help you be the support system that carries you over that finish line and into your next big dream with your organization or enterprise. And so part of our work in that is making sure that we get really clear about some of the things that you're thinking and feeling, maybe unconsciously putting out there in your everyday work life, maybe your personal life as well, but not necessarily articulating. And so part of being able to build strong relationship with funders is knowing where your insecurities and your confidence lie so that you're bringing both of those ideals to the table when you're engaging with potential funders. And so I want to put the term funders aside for a second because that sort of brings up a lot of stuff. These are people who happen to they're responsible. They are hopefully good stewards of the budget that they have annually. And so when they are during budget season, they're at the end of their fiscal year and they need to heading towards the end of their fiscal year. They need to start preparing for budget season and preparing for the following year where they're going to work out who they should be funding the next year, or even the next couple of years. You want to be top of mind. And so today we're going to talk about how to do that, the letter I use to secure funders, and what I recommend to people when I'm funding them, as well as the deck that we use in order to do that. And as I was mentioning, in the section below this video, you can click on the link and get the exact letter, one of the exact letters I use in order to land that initial meeting, and as well as a deck that we recommend you use when it comes to engaging with donors and funders, in particular when we're talking about events. Programs can be very useful for that as well, but we want to really make sure that we're underscoring the importance of the difference between events and programs, and we'll talk about that in other videos. But for today, I want you to have the template for the letter and the template for the deck, and as well as show you exactly how to integrate all the sometimes icky feelings that are associated with talking to people who are responsible for these particular budgets. Okay, so first and foremost, there are 3 big lessons. Can y'all see this? I'll try to make it clear. We'll talk, but I'll keep talking. First, I want to talk about impact. Okay, so when you are writing that initial letter, there's a couple things that's really important. First and foremost, a lot of people don't feel comfortable reaching out to their network to land the right relationships that expand your network. So there are a couple of things. In your local city, county, state, there is inevitably a leadership group that people are connected to. Now, this kind of dynamic can take a while to build these relationships. I'm giving this as an example because I think one of the ways that nonprofit organizations, in particular leaders, often fail is they forget about their network, or they don't take the time to build that network. That's not always going to a bar for after 5 cocktails. Sometimes that's engaging in 6 months to a year of a leadership program, or some relationship dynamic where someone takes you and you get to learn about different businesses, like a chamber or something like that. I sort of argue the benefits of chambers, which I won't die on that hill today, but whether it's a chamber or it's a leadership group, you want to start to plug into these groups, not just to sell your thing, but to build real relationships with people. And the way that I do that is by engaging with them on topics that have nothing to do with work. And so the reason I bring up impact first is because before you talk about the impact of your program and event, you need to talk about the impact of just existing as an adult. And what that means when you're working 9 to 5, maybe you have a family where the family is just you and your partner, or the family are little ones, or the family is your aging parents or grandparents that are now living with you. You want to, or it's that I enjoy biking, or I took up pickleball, or racquetball. My dad always played racquetball when I was a kid, so I'd sort of have that in the back of my mind when I talk about sports, or basketball, which he also played. And so you want to engage with people in a real way. And I think one of the things that this guy that I follow on YouTube talks about, and I've heard other people say it, is commission breath. And so oftentimes what happens is people can sort of sense you selling before you even open your mouth. And so what's important here is that you let down the desperation of, and we'll go into that's part of the second point that I want to make. You want to let that down a little bit. Be aware that you're in a particular meeting or having a conversation or writing an email for one of the purposes to be to land a long-term funding partner, sure. But before they were a funder, before they were the director of such and such for XYZ Bank or ABC Foundation, they were a person who is a real person, who has real fears and real ideas and working themselves to the bone just like the rest of us, unfortunately. And so one of the things that's really important is for you to remember that just like you're a person with ideas and opportunities to engage, so is the other person. And the biggest mistake that people make when they're talking to funders is they see them only as a funder and they don't see them as a person. And so all of a sudden, it's not a real relationship. I'm not saying you have to be best friends with these folks all the time. And sometimes you do build good relationships with them. I'm saying having a dynamic that doesn't feel icky. And as someone who has been funding organizations for a long time and has also requested funding for any number of events or programs, oftentimes that I have secured without fail is because I am not coming in with, here are all the ways you can, salesy, here are all the ways you can benefit from blah, 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 blah. Like, easy, killer. Like, just initiate a conversation in a way that doesn't give off a sense of desperation. And you do that by just talking about the impact. I use this word all the time because it's so important to the work that you do. When you are talking about the work that you do, is by just relating to people. And a lot of people, for whatever reason, don't know how to relate to people. We didn't learn how to be in relationship. Oftentimes it's one-sided, it's transactional, opportunistic. And I get that some people are just coming from the perspectives of this is what I have and I know you can benefit from it. But most people, in particular nowadays where we're in an information society and we think we know everything, at the very least we have access to a lot of things within seconds. What people are really yearning for, and if you really think about what you're yearning for, whether you talk about it or not, is building the kind of relationships with people where they can trust that they're talking to a real person and not somebody that just wants their money or the money they have access to. And so I think part of what has been important to my work and why I've been successful is because I have been able to build the kind of relationships where I talk about just the impact of existing in my life and talking and relating to the other person. So they know the impact of adulting. They know the impact of raising kids or being in relationship or, going through some level of grief or whatever your life is. I try to go there. I'm not big on small talk, never have been. I don't care to do it, and I avoid it at all costs, to be honest with you. And so people often have asked me over the years, how are you so comfortable on the stage? How are you so comfortable in these networking groups? Because I have grown very comfortable with the fact that I'm a goofball, that I make mistakes, that I say the wrong things, that I have dropped the ideals of getting it perfect, saying it the right way. And one other thing that I'll share when it comes to the impact of being in relationship with people is also because of the society we live in, and I totally understand where this comes from, we have grown so cynical that it's difficult to really relate to people. We're very quick to try to spot what is this person up to. And that is a fear, that is a armor. Brene Brown talks about this, that there's an armor that we put forward before we step into a room. And that makes it difficult for people to connect. And so I won't go on a whole diatribe about why that's detrimental, but for the purpose of engaging with someone who may want to be in your sphere, and by sphere I mean your nonprofit organization, your social impact enterprise, what is happening with your organization that they want to be a part of, right? And the first step in doing that is just relating to people. I've heard people say oftentimes, if you grew up in certain parts of the country, so if you grew up in the South, the real South, a lot of people will ask you, well, what church do you go to? And as someone who sort of has a weird reaction to organized religion, it can be off-putting, but it's the first thing out the gate. There's ways that we relate to each other, which is totally normal, has everything to do with our cultural upbringing, lived experience, all of that. And even that's a way to connect with people. But you want to try to go just a smidge deeper, right? Say out loud a little bit about what you're thinking. And some people are scared to do that. You don't want to be seen as a weirdo. And I'm not saying reveal all the things, and you know what appropriate and inappropriate is. But go a smidge deeper so people can see that you're a real person and not just trying to put your hand in their pocketbook. That's uncomfortable. It feels weird to engage with people that way. So I say impact because I want you to be aware of the impact of adulting, the impact of how you come across, and further along in our work, it'll also be sharing the impact of what your program and events will have when it comes to the funding that people are providing you. Okay, so that's impact. The second thing, and I sort of pointed to this, but I want to really drill this home. Confidence. I paused like 5 times because I was like, am I spelling confidence? See, you ever spell something wrong, right? Spell something and think, is that spelled right? You spell things like a million times and all of a sudden you're like, I don't think I spelled it right. So let's talk about confidence. I pointed to it, but I want to I don't necessarily want to give you step by step on how to build confidence because that's not my skill set. But what is my skill set is building relationships with people that end in funding for programs and events. So I want to talk about that. Oh, I have a friend, dear friend, sweet, sweet woman, brilliant. And in some ways, she's awkward. She's sort of an awkward person to like engage with. She's also has the biggest heart and she's brilliant. And oftentimes the really smart ones, they're, a little off, And I think one of the things that I've learned in my work is there is this real need to be in the center of society when it comes to any number of things. I've talked about this a lot in my travels when it comes to education too, because some of that has been with the clients we've had. But oftentimes in a traditional school model, if you are not right in the middle, right? Like if you take a little longer to pick things up or you pick things up really quickly, we put a lot of titles on that, gifted and all of these things. If you don't fit right in the middle, you tend to get left behind. And this is not a referendum on public schools. In fact, I think public schools needs a rebrand because it's in more ways than not, it's doing the job it was intended to do, which I think is fantastic in a lot of ways, but I'm off my high horse. I share that because oftentimes when it comes to engaging with funders and with people who happen to hold the bag, we are trying to fit into this very comfortable box. I need to sound like this. I need to have my words together. If I say too many times, that's bad. If I seem too perfect, then I'm too polished and people can't trust me. There's a lot of like what I call in the head. And what happens is you need to drop your mind into somewhere that what I call soul, into your heart, put it someplace else where you're just diving into getting to know the person. And the first way to get to know the person that's in front of you is to get more comfortable, not perfect, but get more comfortable with you. Because I can't think of the poet's name. I'll try to remember and put it in the comments. But what she shared in this very simple poem is, I was me before I was anyone else's. And it is such a beautiful example of how I exist in the world, right? I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Everyone's not going to be my cup of tea. And over the years, I have learned to get comfortable with that. And so I share that because one of the things that people do when they are what you all may call networking and what I call getting to know new people, truly, is I'm sort of a goofball. I nerd out on politics. I love to knit. I enjoy being with my family. I could probably lose 30 pounds. I love ice cream. I don't always have all the right words. These are things that you get comfortable with time, but I don't necessarily think you have to be in your 40s or 50s or 60s to start the practice of not being perfect, to take a step back, right? Again, that in the mind thinking, drop that down into your heart, into your soul. If you don't believe in the woo stuff, which I do, so I may not be your cup of tea, but put it in a box somewhere so that you can stop thinking yourself into perfection, that you're never going to actually arrive at. What's important is that people are getting to know you, right? And so the reason I write confidence down correctly, I spelled this correctly, is because confidence is not about having everything perfect, having the right words, in particular with these initial conversations that we can talk about and will in a moment. What you say in an email and when you're wanting to land that initial meeting, as well as what the deck should look like, that's very important. Those words are important, but we can play around with emails. The thing that should come the easiest and what in this community, what we work on is, and want people to get more confident in, is not being perfect. Confidence does not equal perfection. Confidence means accepting all of my humanity and putting that foot forward when you're talking to someone new or someone that you've been in a relationship with. And so one of the things I really want us to get comfortable with is showing up being passionate about your reason and your mission. So reason is what unconsciously and consciously inspires and moves and motivates, good, bad, or indifferent, and oftentimes it's bad. And sort of that's the shadow work that we don't really talk about. But the reason is the thing that's motivating you and caused you to start your nonprofit. That is the carrot that you're chasing. It's the thing that's absolutely driving you. My work in my 20s, so 20 plus years ago, suggests there are parts of ourselves that are our critic. And that critic would suggest that it's the thing that needs to keep you going. And so all of these components of who we are show up. And while it's showing up, we're trying to iron the wrinkles out. Girl, you don't gotta iron the wrinkles out. Bring all of that along, right? Like, have it be a part of it. And some of that's a practice that you have to get good with, right? It's saying the thing kindly. Oftentimes you're doing this in practice with friends, with loved ones, intimate partner. Tell them that you're working on this, obviously, because you don't want to blow up at somebody and they're like, what the heck is going on? But you're practicing just showing up honestly, being kind to people. And also that then gives other people the permission in the room and the spaciousness to also be kind and open. And when people are vulnerable, they're more apt to talk about things like, well, what's really going on? How can I support you? Right? When there's a spaciousness there, when people are showing up without all of the armor, and I'm not suggesting I don't walk around with armor sometimes, but what I have prayed about and meditated on for many, many, many years, in particular through the lens of my career, is dropping some of that armor that, to be honest, comes across as bullshit. Because people are wanting to, most people, not everybody, but most people are wanting to know, who are you really? And after that, who are you really? Most people are, how can I support you? Not everyone's going to be able to do that, but it does open the door to having real relationships and building what is real confidence. Not, 3 masters, although that's beautiful, or a doctorate, that's fantastic, right? Not 20 years of experience, although people want to know what your credentials are so they know why they're showing up and watching your video. But after 20-something years of doing this work, almost 20-something years of doing this work, what I know for sure is that who I am must be good enough. And if I am unsure about that, there's not enough flogging and pretending in the world that's going to prevent someone who's holding the bag to know what's going on with this person really. So you want to drop what's in the mind, in the heart, and show up with authentically who you are. Having conversations, what's going on? What are you watching? Check out this video. Just have real dialogues with people. I'm not saying everyone's going to be your friend, but be better at relating to people. And one of the easiest ways to start that is by talking about something very generic, very basic that's in your life. Not something like, it's beautiful outside today, although it may be, and that's a nice way to break the ice, but something that's sort of important to you, that you're sort of interested in, right? Like lately, so for example, I went to this art supply store today. I love to draw, I love to doodle, I journal all the time. Like I mentioned, I have a notebook, and so I love notebooks, I love new pens, I love pens that have a beautiful glide to it. I bought a protractor like we had when we were kids, because I really want to, anyway, I'm working on something for you guys actually. And so anyway, that's something that I would bring up in conversation when someone is sort of chatting about something, or maybe they haven't something on they're wearing something that you find cute. Don't say something that's not real, but something that's nice, right? Like, oh, your hair looks fantastic. Where'd you get your hair done? Or I love those pair of earrings. Was just on Shein or Zara or wherever you're shopping, or a local boutique, and then you're engaging in conversation. Get to know people, I won't belabor. Confidence, real confidence. So the impact of adulthood, you want to put that forward. The impact of your reason for being ties in with your confidence. And I wanted to finish the purpose of my comment about reason. So there's reason, and that's what you're putting forward when you're having these conversations with people who are holding the bag. And there's also the mission. And I want to make that distinction super clear. So your reason is what shows up based on your life experience, your childhood, your trauma, the thing that's inspiring you, the things that maybe harmed you, that's now pushing you forward. And then there's also the mission. And oftentimes people show up to meetings, in particular these initial meetings, with all of their baggage, and they're sort of landing it on the person's desk. And I get that a lot of us have been through a lot of things. Your lived experience should be a part of the story, but it shouldn't be the thing that leads you. And that sometimes requires a lot of work, God forbid therapy, for you to be able to have the kind of conversations that help people to, yes, know what's happening, yes, know what's going on, but that shouldn't be the last thing they understand. The last thing they should understand is, how is this program and or event going to make a significant difference in the world around us, in the community, in the city where we live? So you want to be able to make that distinction in your mind. What I like to do is do some journaling about it before I'm having a conversation. What is my reason for doing the work that I'm doing, and what is the mission? Yes, sometimes they intersect, but bringing all of your baggage and not the solution to a meeting where someone can hand you a $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, $100,000 check, it muddies the water in a way that you don't want to, and negates the purpose of why you're doing the work you're doing, which is to solve real problems. Now, are there some people out there that actually just want to complain and not get to the solutions that they set out to do when they started their organization? Yeah, sure. However, some of you actually are doing this work because you recognize the work that you're doing is impactful, transformative, life-changing. And as a result of that transformation, a lot of times what takes place is people are sort of, they're waiting for you to be the answer that you were called to be. You gotta make the connection. Establish your relationships. Part of that is building your confidence, knowing the difference between your reason and your mission, and then showing up to these meetings ready to go to work. Okay. And then the last thing I want to share, and that'll go into the last part of our work today, is communications. Okay, so I put communications because there's a lot of ways that people communicate. Some of it's nonverbal. I mentioned all of your desperation shows up. You think it looks like confidence because you believe you're covering it up when in reality you're not. People can smell desperation a mile away. And so that's nonverbal communication, right? And that's something like 80 to 90% of how we communicate is nonverbal. So that's communications. So nonverbal. Okay. 3B communications is digital. There are incredible experts at digital communication and how we transcribe thoughts and ideas and visual concepts online. We won't go there today, although a lot of the people that work for the organization and do consulting for We Are Ideas are experts at that. Today, I drill home this particular form of communication through the lens of a lot of the ways that we have grown used to communicating is not an enrolling medium. And y'all think because y'all shoot an email that so-and-so who received it, one, didn't get to spam. If they opened it, didn't immediately get deleted. And if they actually read through it, they cared. So part of the work that we're doing is getting you comfortable with recognizing that digital is still not the best way to get your point across. It often lands really well, but I would dare say most people, and I don't know the number, but I would dare say most people are not great at this as a way to communicate digitally. And so I really want to hone in on the idea that we have to get better at digital communications. And one of the things we're talking about today is how to write this email. Again, the actual email, if you click on the link below, weareideas.global, sign up, and then you'll automatically get one of the exact letters I use to engage organizations like Macy's and Lexus, to name just a few. If you are actually interested in more of this work, please like, subscribe, and comment. We're super excited about being able to do this for you all. My life's work is being able to move people and their mission forward so we live in a more just, liberated world. And my belief in history has shown us that nonprofits and community groups are always the organizations that lead the way. And so like, comment, and subscribe for more of these. Okay, so I want you to think about digital communications in a way that is authentic. And so we are going to do a lot of videos on how to get very real when it comes to how to communicate with people via email. One of the tips I'm going to give you today is the subject line. Okay, this is still the case. Big tip here. There are a lot of schools of thought about what a subject line should look like. And I will leave it to you to do the research. A lot of them work. What has worked for me in over 15 years of landing meetings that I wanted to land and having the kind of partnerships that helped to build multi-year relationships with municipalities and corporations and nonprofit organizations, what that has led to from, in part, small part, but it's significant in some ways, is what your subject line says. And this says, you, your, you are. Okay. No secret. People are pretty self-involved. We all are to a certain extent. If you think you aren't, you've got lost in the nonprofit sauce to think that it's all about giving to others. It is, but most of us at one time or another have some level of opportunism. That out of balance is what's annoying and is narcissistic and weird. But we are thinking about how we think about things. We're coming from our lens, our perspective. And so one of the ways that you do that with a subject line is by making it about the reader. Everything is about the reader, not about you, not about what you need, not about the fact that you'd love a call, right? You want to drill home what is it that you want them to do. So oftentimes when I want them to read something, I say your feedback, your thoughts, your ideas. You are the person, not necessarily the person we're looking for, but you are the expert here, right? You want to center them in the subject line. Another word I use often is please read, and then colon, and then something that's like tangible to what they may be focused on. So for example, you've done your research, and in other videos I talk about this constantly. Please do your research before you reach out to people cold. Even if you know the person, do your research. People are telling you what they're working on, what their organization is working on, what is paramount to their organization. It's on their media advisory page. It's on their social media page. It's in their op-eds that they've been writing. It's on Google. It's in conversations with people that you know that may work there. So you want to talk about something that is impactful to them. So I want to give you a specific example with an organization. I said I would give different stories. Today is one of them. So I had a client that is hyper focused on raising X amount of dollars for for Black liberation. And one of the things that when you're talking to a funder, in particular for topics that nonprofits, is these conversations can be very sticky. People are very uncomfortable talking about race relations. I've, for many different reasons, I've been very comfortable talking about these dynamics and very comfortable with asking for money and being clear about what the impact is. And so I talk about any given topic the way I would talk about what I'm going to eat for dinner or where I'm going on vacation. right? Because you want to talk about it succinctly and clearly, right? Whether people are going to agree or not is up to you and not always really your business. And so part of what you want to do when you're writing the subject line is you want to trace it back to what they're focused on. So let's say with this particular client and Black liberation, I'm not necessarily putting in the subject line, please read Black liberation, although that could be, depending on the reader, that could be a very good line. But I'm also thinking about, let's say I'm reaching out to a bank, and let's say one of the things that banks often are interested in is, sort of rebuilding communities in urban cores, maybe in blighted communities, or communities that are going through a level of gentrification. And so you want to say something in your subject line, like, for example, please read putting money into gentrifying communities. Something that is going to catch their eye based on what you're seeing in your research on what they're actually interested in, right? Now, the last thing, and this is probably goes without saying, but let's say you know someone who knows someone that is connected to the person who's holding the budget for the program that you would like them to fund. Okay, and so this is probably obvious to most people, but one of the easiest ways, and I would say do some work on this, is really scrolling through your Rolodex. I know we don't use that term anymore. Go with me here. But people tend to get really uncomfortable, present company included sometimes, with connecting with your network about what your organization is working on and having just sort of light conversations. Hey, do you have 10 or 15 minutes, and keep it to that time, to chat about this program or organization? You may not be able to support, but I'd love to get on your calendar to talk about what I'm working on and why I think it's going to benefit X, Y, and Z. And a couple of things happens there. One, in one of your ask, actually it could really be your only ask, is would you be willing, I saw that you're connected to so-and-so on LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn can be sort of funny in terms of connecting to the right people and whether they even know the person, which is sort of weird, but you may know them. Actually, a better way is Facebook. Facebook usually has a bit more familial ties than LinkedIn does, but that's another conversation another time. Here, I want you to think about the introduction in the subject line. So introduction and then the person's name that they're connected to, because that then helps the person to open the email. Because obviously if I know the person that is in the subject line, then at least I'm going to be sort of curious. And if you want to go even a step further, you can ask them, if you don't mind, I saw the email, thanks so much. I haven't heard from them in a day or two. I was planning on replying sometime tomorrow. Would you mind just shooting them a text if you're open? Now, some people are going to be like, girl, no, don't be offended. Don't be offended. That's weird. People have a lot of things going on. But if they are open, great. They can shoot them a text. And then it pushes them up on their inbox, and now they respond to you. So those are some quick tips when it comes to digital emails. This is not social media. As I mentioned, we'll have a lot of videos on social media. Today is just about that initial meeting. The email that I use to get that initial meeting, again, you can click in the link below this video, but I wanted you to know specifically the subject line. And then I want to talk about the body of the email a little bit. Body, yada, 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 yada. Kidding. So, not really. The body of the email, I think this goes without saying, no matter what, should be short and sweet. Y'all stop sending emails that are books. No one wants to read an essay. Thanks. You don't. Nobody else does either. So what you want to do is offer something that is easy for them to say yes to. So for example, what I like to do is I like to talk about the impact of the program in that first email, really that second or third line. That first line obviously can be, oh, I hope you all is well and all of that jazz, but the second or third line should be something about something that the impact that your work has had on you that is universal, right? So if you are, for example, doing work around Black liberation, the impact of funding Black-led nonprofit organizations you've seen transform communities, specifically so-and-so who, because of this $10,000, you don't necessarily drop money, but because of the work that we're doing or this program, we were able to see more people get involved politically, and we were able to infuse more jobs into community. We were able to do more mental health work in community. We were able to increase the graduation rate by, 64% over the course of 5 years. Whatever it is, you want to try to say something that's very real in one sentence, maybe two. And then you want to share, I would love to talk more about this. I know you have a busy schedule. I imagine you have a busy schedule just like everyone else, but I would love to chat with you 10 or 15 minutes. If you don't really have time to chat, maybe we can riff back and forth. That does two things. One, it gives obviously the option to talk, but it also gives people choice, and people have choices. And so what I like to do is give people the option of how to engage with me after I've told them a little bit about the program. And it works. And so you want to make sure that you're capturing this in the body so that you may not be actually able to see this. Yeah, I'm running out of room for you to see. So I'll just share with you. You want to start off with a one-liner that says the impact in real time, a real example. You want to go into, I'd love to have 15, 20 minutes. If you're open, share some times, make it really easy breezy. 3, if a call doesn't work, maybe we can riff back and forth about some of the article that I wrote, or article or blog, or the video that I posted. Here is a quick clip of us in action in XYZ city that both you and the person are aware of. Let me know if you want to chat, that sort of thing. You're doing that kind of work. Sorry, water break. Thanks. Okay. And then once you've done that, then you're giving them options, and you say, usually I end with something like, let me know what's possible. Something about that line helps people to understand that they could never respond to you, but let me know what's possible. I don't know what's possible. Let's talk. Yeah, I'm free in a month. Give me a shout. So you want to keep it short, sweet, to the point, one line impact. Give them an option. Let me know what's possible. Another way of saying let me know what's possible is something like, chatting would be cool the next couple of weeks. I'm free next Friday at 10. Let me know what's possible. I usually let them know what's possible, but if you want to give them specificity, that's really helpful. Some people don't really like phone calls because they have enough phone calls. Some people are open to text. I have, especially in the last couple of years, said, because I'm actually not really a phone person either, especially when people are asking for money. And so what I like to do is if I'm engaged with the conversation enough, then a phone call is great. But if I'm sort of interested, but want to just see where it's going, I would also say something like, I know you're really busy with you have a busy calendar. If you want to text for a little while to sort of go back and forth some of the work that I'm working on, and then maybe set up a time to chat, that would be awesome. Let me know what's possible. I usually am with that. So, but you can find out what that looks like, but you want to keep it open and you want to give people choice. So I want to pause there. Okay. Checking my notes to make sure we've hit all of the points. So the last thing I want to share is this sense of excitement that you will grow into in our work together. Because a lot of times what's happening is people are uncomfortable talking about money. And they know what the challenges are very uniquely, lived experience, and or been doing the work for a very long time. And so it's tiresome. It's demoralizing. It can be frustrating. Also, you have to pay the bills, and so that can be hard. Or you have a whole staff that you have to pay for. Maybe the funding goes up and down based on what political thing is happening, the Department of Health or some big foundation, whatever it is, funding changes. And so you're also always in that feeling of desperation, where what I am challenging with the nonprofit industrial complex and social impact organizations in general is, how do we embrace the system of fundraising in a way that helps to put us in the ownership chair? And part of how we do that, part of how I'm teaching people to do that, and have for many years, is by growing a level of excitement about the work. And funding money is just a mechanism that is feeding that work that you love so much. Now, if you don't love the work and it's just what you fell into, then part of what we're doing is sort of helping you to grow that engagement and that excitement in a way that is exciting, that feels not necessarily always good, because a lot of times nonprofit work is not fun, but it is meaningful, it's purposeful, you know it's making a difference, you're moving the ball down the court. I can't believe I use a sports analogy. Wow. But you're doing it, you know? And so part of what I want to share as we wrap today is the importance of engaging with your program in a way that sort of lights you up, because people can feel that. They can feel that in email, they can feel that over text, they can feel that in a phone call, they can feel that in your sponsorship deck. And that leads me to my final point. In the link below, you request the sponsorship deck and we'll share it with you. The thing I wanted to share on video though, because some people just want to get right to the document, and please feel free. But like, subscribe, comment. That's what the people tell me to say. Do it. But the thing I do want to say about a deck is, yes, it should be well designed if you can, but that is not always the meat and potatoes, because not everybody knows. I mean, most of us have some working knowledge of how to use Canva, but not everybody has a designer on deck that can make it all beautiful with glossy photos and all of that stuff. And I'm telling you, you don't need that. 2, maybe 3 pages. If you've never worked with a funder for, keep your top level of the funding option for the event on the low end, so that they can build a relationship with you, because then you need to scale back. They don't necessarily need to scale up. I know that's hard for people to understand, but everybody is not going to be the biggest fan of your work. They're not going to understand your lived experience. Some people don't even care that much, and that's just the reality of it. You're the person that has to care in this dynamic. You're the one that cares. Only thing I'm doing is not necessarily caring, although that's part of it. The big transformative thing I want you to understand about your work is that it's not necessarily about them caring. It's about them understanding why this money is going to transform, so that they look good within themselves, they look good to their peers, they look good to their boss, they can move on knowing that they made an impact. And so you pretending or thinking that somehow people should care as much as you do. And then not only do you get upset about that, but there's this vengeful sort of angry tone when people don't care as much as you do. Let that go. No, people are never going to care as much as you do. This is your lived experience, right? This is your bag to carry, or your bag to let down, or your work in the world that is guiding you to where you are today. You're supposed to care. And so I share that because it's really important that when you're working on, whether it's an email or a sponsorship deck, that you are conveying your passion. Turn that anger, that righteous indignation, that sometimes is really important and does fuel us, but that's your reason, not your mission. And you want to make that so clear, that distinction so clear, that when you start doing your draft of a sponsorship deck or a sponsorship letter, a LOI, letter of intent, whatever it is, you want to start to get clear in your mind why the money is going to be transformative to the work that you do. And you have to completely think about the impact in your life, so that you're conveying this work to people clearly, your passions, your ideas, both work related and not, that you're coming to a place of confidence that includes all of your idiosyncrasies and your oddities and your weirdities, and you're infusing that into how you communicate. And your communications, nonverbal, which is how you show up before you show up. And you want to make that clear with yourself so that you know what energy you bring into the room. And I'm going to make a point about that in a second. And then the digital communications, subject lines, which again, you'll see this in the document if you choose to go to weareideas.global. And then in the body of your email, right? What are you saying that's talking about why this is important to you and why this funding is going to have a long-lasting impact when it comes to system change work and people's lives, people's day-to-day lives. And the thing I will actually end with today, I'm trying to turn into a church person that's pastor that's telling you he's going to end soon and doesn't end soon. That was a joke. Okay. Is one of the things that's really important when you are engaging with people who have the responsibility of funding certain activities, programs, events, is you want to be aware of the energy you bring into a room. And you know this because you're going to ask people, and that's really your homework. Water. People that are close to you, people that'll be honest with you. Honest, not sugarcoating. Like it needs to hit you in the throat. You know what I mean? So one of the things you want to ask is, what is the word on the street about me? What comes in the room when I come in the room? Everybody has a light that's over their head. Everybody. And if every light had a color and every color had a word, you have that. And you want to ask that question of people who are going to be honest with you, that you're not going to take their head off when they tell you the real. So when I walk in the room, what I've been told over the years is I can be stealth. People think I'm a bitch. And that their thought may or may not go away, but that's up to them. But it's important to know that because it helps you to understand maybe there are things that you can change about yourself if you choose to. Well, that's not always easy. Again, we're integrating. But one of the things that's really important to the work you do is knowing what these things are so that you can sometimes pull back or step forward, right? Let's say the thing that walks into the room is people don't really know what to make of you because you're quiet. Maybe you're introverted or shy. That you don't have to change that, right? There's nothing wrong with you. Just because we live in sort of an extroverted, and I use that loosely because I don't know if we live in an extroverted world, as much as sometimes we live in a fake world. I think one of the things that's really important is that even if you were shy and introverted, that something about who you are is coming with you. It's not your shy or introversion. Maybe it's that you're not trusting of people, right? And maybe that's something that you can integrate. What could I do in order to get to know people more so they can get to know me? And part of what asking these questions are of people that can be honest with you, what it does is it just informs you. You don't have to change it, but when you're aware of it, you can make sense of it so that when you're communicating, I'm aware that sometimes I can come across as X. And so maybe I'm just a little kinder with my tone. Maybe if I choose to, I speak in a way that people can get to know me a little bit better. It depends on what you're willing and not willing to do. Some people aren't willing to shift those things, but what it does without question is it informs you of how you show up before you show up. And so I share all of this because I think it's important in our work. It's important to have a more authentic conversation about how to have dialogues with people that you don't know and you do know when it comes to funding these projects and ideas and these events. And so our support is really about supporting you in your mission. If you want deeper engagement with us, we have a 15-5 program where people sign up for a 3-month package and we support you in planning your events, the logistics, the registration, managing the vendors and the panelists and the people that are coming in to speak. We also support you in legal advice, DEIB advice, especially as it's changed and shifted over the last couple of years, as well as HR. What does it look like to have robust employee engagement and be aware that if you don't have it, there are real litigation possibilities that take place. And then lastly, have accounting support that can tell you, and part of our project and our work in the 15-5 program is taking your accounting and really moving it from just numbers to what these numbers mean when it comes to results and impact when it comes to your program and events. So if you want to know more about the 15-5 program, go to weareideas.global and let us know about it and we will reach out to you. Okay. I hope this was incredibly informative. Ask all the questions, get clarity. I'm really excited about being able to work with each and every one of you. Okay, let's bring people together.